Hey everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're looking at something absolutely wild, a moment where internet meme culture literally collided with and reshaped Indian politics from the ground up. We are diving into the 2026 Delhi Jantar Mantar protests to unpack exactly how a massive youth-led movement achieved unprecedented systemic government reform.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here's our roadmap for today. We'll kick things off with the exam leak crisis, move on to the brilliantly named Cockroach Janta Party, look at fasting for a cause, cover the climax with the Sansad Chalo March, and finally wrap up with the resolution and aftermath.
Section 1, the exam leak crisis. Millions of students left in limbo. Imagine studying for years for one single test that basically decides your whole future, right? And then the rug just gets pulled out from under you. On May 3rd, 2026, the NEET UG exam, which is the massive gateway test for medical students in India, was held nationwide. But get this, just 9 days later, on May 12th, the whole thing was abruptly canceled. Why? Massive paper leaks. And to make matters worse, at the exact same time, widespread scoring irregularities popped up in the CBSE on-screen marking process for high schoolers. So you've got millions of students just left completely stranded. Their futures are totally up in the air. As you'd expect, frustration hit a boiling point, and by early June, protests were already erupting right outside the Ministry of Education in New Delhi. Section 2. The Cockroach Janta Party, a satirical movement, is born. So how does localized anger over exams turn into this massive, highly organized digital agitation? Well, it actually started with one single incredibly controversial comment. During a Supreme Court hearing in May, Chief Justice Surya Kant said something that inadvertently threw absolute gasoline on the fire. He said, "There are youngsters like cockroaches. They don't get any employment. They start attacking everyone." Now, he did clarify later that he was talking about fraudulent activists, not the youth in general. But honestly, the damage was done. The quote went instantly viral. For a generation that already felt cheated by the system, being compared to cockroachings, that was the spark that blew the whole thing wide open. And this brilliantly illustrates how modern movements are born. The youth didn't just get mad, they got creative. On May 16th, a digital strategist named Abhijit Dipke founded the Cockroach Janta Party, or the CJP. It was the satirical youth political movement designed specifically to mock the Chief Justice's remark. And what started as just online memes and social media outrage rapidly transformed into a highly organized, nationwide offline protest network. They all had one unified demand: the immediate resignation of the Union Education Minister Dharmendra Pradhan.
And let's look at how they actually rolled this out, because honestly, it's a masterclass in modern organizing. Step 1 was dominating the digital space with viral Gen Z-led satirical campaigns. Step 2 took it into the real world. They released a national exam manifesto in Pune demanding actual financial compensation. And Step 3 was boots on the ground. Deepk actually flew in from the US to lead this phase, and protesters completely flooded Jantar Mantar in New Delhi. The visuals were wild. People were wearing cockroach masks and holding up textbooks to symbolize their right to education. Soon enough, prominent left-wing student groups like ASA and SFI joined in, completely transforming an internet meme into a formidable physical force.
Section 3. Fasting for a cause. The movement escalates. Now here's where the stakes skyrocketed. We're talking a shift from a student protest to a full-blown national crisis. On June 28th, prominent Ladakhi environmentalist and education reformer Sonam Wangchuk arrived at Jantar Mantar. And he didn't just show up to give a quick speech, no. He declared an indefinite hunger strike, demanding that the education minister resign. And he wasn't alone. Student leaders, including ASA National President Neha Bora, joined him in the fast.
26. That is the grueling number of days Sonam Wangchuk went without food. For nearly a whole month, he sat there using this classic nonviolent protest method to basically force the government's hand and amplify the students' demands on a massive scale. Let's track the timeline of this incredibly harrowing fast. It kicks off on June 28th. By July 17th, Wangchuk had lost over 9 kilos. That's roughly 20 pounds, and he physically couldn't stand up without help. Then a massive turning point hit on July 18th. The Delhi police, citing medical advice and court orders, forcibly removed Wangchuk from the protest site and took him to Safdarjung Hospital. Protesters were absolutely outraged, saying it was done totally against his will. But get this, even from his hospital bed on July 20th, Wangchuk released a handwritten note vowing to continue his fast. His deteriorating health and that sudden police intervention, it just completely galvanized support for the students across the country and the world.
Section 4, the Sansa Jello March, the climax of the agitation. With Wangchuck hospitalized and anger at an all-time high, July 20th became the explosive boiling point for the entire movement. Defying police orders to disperse, tens of thousands of Gen Z protesters, students, and CJP supporters massed together for a Chalo Sansad March, heading straight toward Parliament House. This was strategically timed right on the opening day of Parliament's monsoon session. The mobilization was so intense that the government actually shut down local internet services and locked down multiple metro stations, which, of course, just sparked more protests right inside the transit hubs themselves.
Now, what's really interesting here is the stark contrast between the official accounts of what happened next. We're looking at this completely impartially, just laying out the claims from both sides. According to the Delhi police, they acted professionally to maintain public order. They state that protesters broke barricades, engaged in stone pelting, and damaged government vehicles, which led to 118 police personnel getting injured. The protesters, however, tell a very different story. They claim the police used entirely excessive force, deploying baton charges and tear gas against a peaceful march. They also reported arbitrary detentions, estimating that roughly 150 protesters ended up hospitalized. To put the sheer scale of this disruption in central Delhi into perspective, let's look at the hard numbers. At the peak of the chaos, 18 metro stations were completely shut down. The Ministry of Home Affairs literally had to airlift 20 entire companies of the Central Reserve Police Force from Kolkata just to manage the situation. And the human toll was heavy, with 118 police injuries reported by officials and around 150 protesters hospitalized, according to the organizers. A student protest had, for all intents and purposes, entirely paralyzed the heart of the national capital.
Section 5, Resolution and Aftermath, Demands Met.
So, how does a crisis like this actually end? Well, the intense snowball effect of the street protests combined with Wangchuck's fast finally broke the political gridlock in late July. The timeline moved fast. The violent climax at the Parliament March happened on July 20th, and the resulting chaos caused massive deadlocks inside Parliament itself, with opposition members flat out refusing to allow proceedings to continue until the education minister resigned. The pressure was immense. Finally, the government yielded. On July 23rd, Wangchuck ended his fast after securing written assurances, and just 2 days later, on July 25th, the movement's primary goal became a reality. Let's break down the specific, hard-won concessions the government granted, which were negotiated by Union Ministers J.P. Nadda and Jatinder Singh Rana. First, they promised the immediate creation of fast-track courts under the 2024 Act to try anyone responsible for the paper leaks. Second, financial compensation for the families of students who tragically committed suicide due to the crisis. And third, a written assurance to withdraw police cases against nonviolent protesters. Getting these promises in writing is exactly what led to Wangchuck breaking his 26-day fast and the CJP officially calling off the protests. But the ultimate victory, the real turning point, was finalized on July 25, 2026. Education Minister Dharmendra Pradhan officially resigned. He wrote a letter addressed to his young friends, where he took full moral responsibility for the medical entrance examination crisis. The government had officially yielded to the students. This whole event brilliantly illustrates the new, unpredictable era we're living in. And it leaves us with a really crucial question to ponder. If a satirical internet meme, literally a joke about cockroaches, can evolve into a nationwide movement that topples a cabinet minister in a single month, how will Gen Z's digital-first activism reshape the future of traditional global politics? It's a fascinating reality, and definitely something politicians worldwide are going to have to adapt to. Thanks for joining me on this explainer to unpack this remarkable chain of events. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll catch you next time.